Hello, and welcome to the Excellent News Delivery, delivering the most excellent news directly to you. I'm Sam, your host, and this podcast is all about promoting positivity and creativity in both the media and creative worlds, and just talking to different people and seeing what they're up to. So I've got Ben with me here today, if you want to say hello.
Hello.
So we actually were both at university at the same time, and you've kind of been, I want to say, quite spread out in terms of different projects you've done. Like you've been on different radio shows and different sort of podcasts and stuff, and so you've had that sort of more range of experiences.
I'd like to think so. I mean, you spoke very highly of me there, Sam. So I appreciate that. But no, I'd like to think I've got a wide range of experience from both working with you and with other people, and of other people in the industry. So hopefully, I can share some funny stories and a little bit of knowledge in this podcast.
Well, what I find interesting, I mean, and it does really come in, I think, more the radio world. So obviously, I think one point you were like manager or something of this one radio thing, you were like helping out there. But I think it's more like the constant sort of like getting different people on, and sort of like with TV, at the end of the day, you can sell TV with saying like, there's going to be a camera here, you're going to be there. It's kind of like an easy selling pitch. But when you say like with radio, you've really got to like sell the program itself, because it's almost like these people, you've got to literally say like, oh, they're going to hear your voice. You can't see anyone. Loads of people are going to be listening to you. But you've like, you want to constantly get different people on and keep mixing the norm up.
I think for me personally, radio and like podcasts and stuff are like my new like little niche of stuff that I'm really, really getting into. Because obviously, as you mentioned a second ago, I was the manager of a student radio station that obviously you were a part of as well. And from that, obviously, it's not only given me a massive amount of experience into the world of radio and the legality of it and things like that, but like you said, it's kept things for me really, really interesting, because it's so different with radio, because you can pretty much do anything that you want. Like you said, with a TV show, you have all this planning and all this, you need a certain set, you need a certain crew, you need a certain ability of people in order to make the thing a reality. Whereas with radio and with podcasting specifically, you need very minimal equipment, and it's all about the let's say the delivery of the idea, as opposed to what it looks like, what it sounds like. So I've done many podcasts in my time, and I've done many radio shows in my time, and I think you have a lot more creative freedom over your own project, because you're working, say for example, like we are now, you and me, we're having a chat, and that in itself is the selling point of the show. Whereas something like TV, as you said previously, it's sort of like it's easier to sell, but I think your control and the passion that you can present through that, I think, is a lot more limited compared to things like podcasts.
Well, just to sort of like, you're sort of the first person we've ever had that has more of a, managerial planning role in like on the podcast that we've had on before. So like the one thing I think really I'm interested to hear is like, what's like the sort of worst experience you've had to have with someone? Was like, what's the most brutal thing where you've had to turn around to someone and just say no? Because that's got to be in itself just as much experience as like, all the positivity in a sense.
Yeah, obviously, as the manager of the student radio station that I was at, there was so many people that wanted to get involved, and we had pitches for so many different shows and pitches for so many different things. And I think the hardest thing that I ever had to do was that there was a group of lads that were so energetic, so enthusiastic about the project they were doing, but they tended to sort of like slip into like swearing and saying things that, in terms of the legality of a radio station, you weren't allowed to do. And I think the hardest thing for me was sitting them down and sort of saying to them in a way that wasn't like me telling them off, but it sort of I had to tell them off, but I didn't want to patronize them as if that I were a teacher, for example, at school, telling a student off for doing something immoral. So like, for me, that was a massive learning curve, because you can't just sit there and you go, you've done something wrong, because then that will just bash and sort of diffuse all the creativity that they have, because they'll go, well, we can't do what we enjoy in a natural, organic way. So luckily I had another manager, co-manager or deputy manager at the time, that was helping me with all this stuff. But like, yeah, sort of telling someone they can't do something when you can see the passion and the enthusiasm they have in that project is the worst thing, because obviously I loved the show. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really witty, but because it didn't adhere to the guidelines that I had set, you're sort of like, well, I have to tell you you're doing something wrong, but I didn't want to do it in a way that, like I said, would damage their enthusiasm for it, because they could have turned around and gone, right, well, I don't want to do this anymore, because you've the way that I came across, I could have beaten it out of them to the point where they go, yeah, this isn't fun anymore. So that was a massive learning curve, and I think has served me well in more recent times when, dealing with people that have an idea or something that isn't acceptable or possible.
Oh, but that's really interesting. I mean, it's something really interesting to consider. And I think this is also like with the podcasting stuff, I'm more like, this show itself is a bit more fortunate, because if something goes wrong, we can still edit. With a lot of the radio stuff, it's all live. If someone like messes up on the air, that's out there. It's nothing more you can do there. It's like, as soon as it's said, you can't like just, go back and edit it like you could do with film and TV. And I think in itself, it's that sort of preparation that like, it's such a challenging thing, especially like from when I was doing sort of the radio project stuff. It's that sort of thing that's in the back of your head, like, if something slips out, that's out there. There's no like, oh, we'll just cut that out, or anything like that, which I think is fantastic.
That's one of the more endearing things about it's more specifically podcasts that I'm really interested in at the minute, just because I've worked on them before. I am working on projects currently, and it's like, podcasts were 4 or 5 years ago such an underappreciated form of media, because it was the argument that anyone can do it, which therefore means it loses value. Because, for example, if you're listening to BBC Radio 1, for example, you know that only BBC Radio 1 can produce the content that BBC Radio 1 are producing. Whereas with a podcast, I could sit in my bedroom or in a shed or in an attic somewhere with a small microphone on a headset, for example, and produce content. And I think people thought that in itself held less value for what can be considered quality content. And I think the fact that people are getting on board with podcasts now, you see BBC Radio 1 have now got a podcast, Capital FM have now got a podcast, famous YouTubers and famous influencers and actors and things have their own podcast. I think the emerging form of how simple it can be makes it so powerful and makes it so good, which is why it's almost an evolution of radio, because like you said, with radio, if you say something, that's it, it's out there forever, unless it's of course pre-recorded. But with podcasts, you have so much freedom as to what you can say, because it is as simple as, right, that just doesn't make it to air. And I think that is the most endearing thing about it, of that you can find some of the most funny, entertaining, interesting podcasts and people to talk to and about through podcasts, because it's just them. You can almost get a sense of character from their podcasts, because it's them. They're not doing it for the sake of a brand or a TV deal, for example. What you hear is almost what you get. So, for example, you're a fantastic host of this podcast, I must say, and the way in which you present yourself, obviously, because I know you personally, is just Sam. That you are you, and I think that is the most endearing thing about it, because it's just you. And obviously you can get that character across really easily and really well through podcasts, which is one of the reasons I am sort of have dived straight in at the deep end really with it.
Totally. Well, I mean, what you're saying is just so true. Like, if you see now, like, one of the most popular things I'm seeing that pops up is like, all these Zoom meetings that are being like recorded, like with 9 different people, like for different networking stuff. Like Ant and Dec were doing that at one point, I believe. And like there's some charity stuff like online. I don't know if you ever saw the show Community, but they did like a big Zoom meeting with like all the cast, like, just just taking that one episode script and just reading through that. And it's like, it's like you say, I think the world in terms of the media is massively changing in terms of, we're almost arching away from needing big studios to how much is capable, from just sat inside, in your own living room. And I think that is such an interesting sort of perspective.
Yeah, because the way I see it is like, the reason why I watch TV shows, for example, is not only because the concept is a good concept. For example, one of my favorite shows is I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Like, I think the concept of it is just amazing, but it's not the concept that sells it. It's the people that present it. So obviously Ant and Dec, arguably the best presenters the UK has ever seen. But you watch Ant and Dec, you see something with Ant and Dec's face on it, it's good quality because of how quality they are as people. So I think with a podcast, it gives people who may not be the level, let's say, of Ant and Dec, it gives them a place and a position to market themselves and present themselves in a way that is sort of unfiltered and uncensored, to the point where you can almost feel like you are one of their friends and you're having a conversation with them, because there's nothing worse than seeing TV shows specifically, if I can get my words out, that you can just tell are just lifeless and are just, that presenter is there because he's been paid a certain amount of money to read the script that's on the auto cue, and it's just so lifeless. Where with a podcast, it's just like there's so many possibilities about what you can talk about and so many possibilities that you can go into, and it's like that the characterization of the people that you listen to, I think, make it so much more endearing as a platform of conversation.
Totally, completely. Like, I think that is the sort of real big selling point. It's like personalities and like these sort of people can make or break a show. But just to sort of step away from the online world, with all the podcasts and stuff, and talking about your documentary you did with Leicester City, that is something I think is awesome. I mean, Leicester City, I'm a fan of them and everything. But I think I saw bits of what you did, and it's such a fun thing to see in terms of like your cinematography, just that one aspect, and looking at that, it's such a big thing. But I'd love to sort of like just hear the experience with that.
Well, Sam, you've opened up a can of worms now, because this is the project that's taken over my life for the past like year and a bit. We started planning it in, when was it, sort of September 2019 time, maybe a little bit before that, sort of summer of 2019, and then we obviously finished it in June. So it's pretty much like a full year of my life has been taken up by this. And as a football fan, when I was given the opportunity to do this by my editor, Lauren, I was like, I couldn't turn it down, because I was the producer for the project, which meant I was very similar to how a manager of a radio station manages that station. I was in charge of making sure that all the logistical stuff was done. So I had to make sure that we had all the equipment sorted, all of the legal stuff sorted, because obviously you have to sign forms and stuff so people can consent to being a part of a production. Then what did I have? I had to talk to actors, and well, they weren't actors, they were contributors, the people we were interviewing. I had to make sure that Leicester City themselves were happy with us using their name in the project. And it was such an amazing experience, because it gave us an angle to look at football that I think hasn't really been covered in traditional media. So the way that we looked at it, and by the way, the documentary is called Live and Breathe Leicester. If you just type that into YouTube, it'll come up.
Right.
So I recommend,
nice
if you
little
haven't
plug
watched
there.
it, you have to give it a shameless plug. So Live and Breathe Leicester basically is a documentary that looks into the importance of football within a community of people. So instead of looking at the football club in itself and being like, look how amazing Leicester City are, we angled it to look at the people that the football club affects. So we had a lovely girl called Alex, who was our like main interviewee, and she basically talked about how the football club and supporting football has made her and her dad a lot closer, and her and her granddad a lot closer. And then we delved into gender stereotypes and sort of the sociological effects of football, and then we talked about like the economical side of football. We got people in that were the chairman of the Leicester City Supporters Club, Ian Basin. He was fantastic, and again, such an interesting person to talk to, because he almost as close as to an official person that we could get for the documentary, to talk about the importance that it's had on the community of Leicester. And then we spoke to the head Leicester City correspondent for the Leicester Mercury newspaper, which is the biggest local newspaper in Leicester. And we spoke to him about, again, what football means to him and what it's done to the community. And it was just such an interesting twist on what could have been just almost a video promotion for Leicester. It turned into a much more sociological driven piece that looked at the people as opposed to the football club itself. And as a result of that, it's given me not only a much bigger love for football than I already had, but it's also given me a lot of ideas for like future documentaries and future podcasts and future other pieces of content that I can make, because I've spent the last year looking at how people are affected by things and sort of the psychological reasons behind that. So it's like, why would I not waste more hours and years of my life looking at that in a much more confined sense? And that's sort of my plan now, is hopefully, touch wood if everything goes well. That's what I want to start doing. I want to start looking more into the importance of people within, different contexts. So that's my plan. But honestly, Live and Breathe Leicester was probably probably is my proudest achievement to date. Like, just for the spectacle of it, how much planning went into it, how long the shoot days were, everything about it. It's just so perfect to me, and in my how I viewed it was just. Yeah, I could talk about this all day. I
I was
really
going to
could,
say,
because it was
I
honestly
could just
like,
feel the passion coming off you. But anyway, yes. So Live and Breathe Leicester. You can search online. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to check that out. But again, it's fascinating to see, and I think it just speaks volume about like you as a person and sort of like the way like you present this. And it's like when we say the word passion project, it can be so loosely thrown around sometimes. But with projects like this, which you've put so much time and effort into, and you can like, like even I saw some like the promotional art, and it's the Leicester City's T-shirt hanging outside on like a just drying
on a
out
washing line.
on a washing line. Yes, I forgot what the washing line was for a second. But things like that. It
Yeah,
speaks volume. The simplicity of it can speak such
and
levels of
that's
volume. But
yeah, that's what we wanted. We wanted it to be as simple as possible, and I think it's so deep in the way that it is presented, but also so simple that it's like an easy watch. It's only like 10 minutes long, but the amount of stuff that we've managed to cram into that, and how deep we can go into like the emotional side of football was amazing.
totally. But anyway, just move us on here. We'll go into our sort of news segment. So we just basically, it's just I found some interesting stuff, some positive stuff that's been happening in the world. And this first one, I think you might already know about, but we'll see. So Crash 4, It's About Time, has been officially announced. It's got trailers and everything all up.
Yes.
I knew you'd be the right person to bring this up
Yes.
with. But yeah, no, the initial drop trailer looks fantastic. Like, the redesigns look
Yeah.
amazing. They've introduced new gameplay mechanics. And I think overall, I think, the last Crash game I remember really enjoying was obviously the remakes were fantastic, but the last unique one was like Twin Sanity, and that one kind of had some positive,
Yeah.
negative feedback. But this new one,
Yeah, I
it's
really enjoyed that. But
the new trailer. I mean, I think maybe the song I wasn't as much a fan of, but the actual like just pure gameplay, you can just almost feel the love of
yeah.
the franchise is there.
Yeah, I think as well, like it goes back to the simplicity of what Crash Bandicoot was on the PlayStation 1, which was a 2D/3D linear platforming game. And I think from the redesign and from the trailer and stuff, you can see that it goes back to basics, but it's so different and so fresh to what it's taken the classic formula of a 3D sort of platforming game and sort of elevated that to a level that is PlayStation 4 quality. Well, I mean, it's on Xbox and PlayStation as well, but
Yeah, but no, it's totally. I mean, like I read. I mean, as soon as I saw the trailer, I was reading articles and whatever else, and they have like said, that going back to the old style of just the 2D, 3D platforming. They've introduced new masks to play with different elements. There's like one that slows down time, one that lets you switch from the ground to the ceiling. So it's
yeah, it's like the
little
elemental
additions.
masks from Wrath of Cortex. I think it was Wrath of Cortex where the elemental masks were
Oh
introduced
yes,
as like
yes,
evil characters.
yeah. I think that
So I
was.
think they've sort of taken that
Mm,
and just
also,
sort of, because I'm a massive nerd, so I love stuff like this.
no, Wrath of Cortex. I completely blanked on because that was like follow up to like 3-bit wasn't connected, and then they had Twin Sanity that followed that. But no,
It
yeah,
was, yeah,
if we can remember our Crash timeline. But no, yeah, they have said it's going completely back to that formula. I think Nitrous Cortex is like playable as well. I saw briefly in the trailer, which is kind of
Cortex is
um,
playable.
I saw him playable, and I was like quite excited about that. but yeah, no, I mean, it just, when like games sell out a lot, and sometimes franchises do sell out, this just, looks like such a love letter to the fans, and it just looks like, they've taken what
Yeah,
works and gone, what more can we add to it?
yeah. I think as well, like the fans sort of deserve it because Crash Bandicoot was like the reason that the PlayStation 1 back in the day sold so well because obviously everyone had their own staple character. For example, Nintendo had Mario,
Oh yeah,
Sega
he
had
was the
Sonic.
mascot. Yes.
Crash Bandicoot almost became the unofficial official mascot of Sony, and I think the fact that he was laid to rest, let's say, for so long, and now they've got a brand new game, like you said, Sam, it's just a love letter to the fans to say, listen,
Mm.
we've not forgot about what made Sony and what made the PlayStation so successful, and sort of leading on from that, you've got Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 5, which I'm so excited for. Like all of my childhood is just coming back. It's amazing, and obviously this is excellent news. It really is good news because I love stuff like this, like the
Mm.
simple. That what got me into playing video games is now being remade, and it's just like, why would I not wanna just take my money now, please?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think I shared to like my girlfriend briefly, and I said as soon as I saw the trailer, like I was like, I'm just gonna impulse like pre-order Crash Bandicoot. It said like I think the 20th of
Yeah,
October. I was like, oh, dude, that
October 2nd. October
oh
2nd it is.
second even earlier. But, I was like, I'm not waiting to like see reviews like the trailer. Look, when one trailer can sell you so
Yeah,
well, and you could be completely wrong, but it's like,
you've mentally bought it already.
yeah, yeah. Well, I said to her like, oh, this is already pre-ordered in my head. You know,
I'm really sorry. I've already spent money.
yeah. It's like there's no thought pattern. I'm not going to try and sell this, but yeah. To be honest, Sony are
No,
like
no.
coming up with some strong IPs. Or I think ideally in the perfect world is we just need something just to wrap up the Sly Cooper story, and maybe a little bit of Jack and
Oh,
Daxter love, and then
don't, because I would. This literally all I want. Because obviously the PS5 is coming out, which is excellent news in itself, and then
mm,
obviously Ratchet and Clank and Crash Bandicoot are coming out. But yeah, I think Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, give us maybe like 2 more games,
well,
just so I can nerd out and buy merchandise for it.
like Jack and Daxter, I could live with a remake. It's I don't know if you played
Yeah,
the last Sly Cooper game, but the sort of uh, ending just leaves like so much to like wonder. I just you want that satisfying just ending just to sort of put it all together because it's left as such a
yeah.
sort of
Well,
open ending.
are we talking about the? Are we talking about the original 3, or are we talking about? I think it's like Thieves in Time is the
Thieves
last
in
one. Or are we
Times,
talking
yeah.
about the original?
Thieves
Yeah,
in Times, yeah, because
because
it leaves on such a
yeah,
it leaves you in like such a
a
like
cliffhanger that
cliffhanger to sort of like it's just like it has that sequel sort of like speaking at
it's
the
not
end
been
of it.
fully wrapped up yet, and it's really annoying.
But yeah, that's all. I think Sony are already killing it, and like to be honest, like with Crash
Oh
Bandicoot
yeah,
coming out, Xbox, and PlayStation are both going to like massively just benefit from it. But like
yeah.
again, just to just gush over Crash 4, like even like just looking at some of the screenshots, and they're actually like gameplay screenshots, and you think like, oh, this just looks like like concept art because it looks this amazing. It just looks unreal. In and of
Yeah,
itself. But
like
that's
you said,
something.
it's a big thank you to the fans. I
Oh,
think
completely, yes.
it's that it looks that good that you can tell that a lot of thought has gone into it, and it's not just been a we need to make more money. Let's make a Crash Bandicoot game.
Totally.
It's a dedicated game to the fans. I think.
Mm. But anyway, also sort of talking our sort of video game news, Poland is the first government worldwide to add video games to official schools reading list as an educational resource. So they've got
Oh wow!
yeah. So actually, we talk about sort of the gamer history and like how it's more of a cultural thing and like what we've grown up on. But now it's being recognized in some way. So the video game This War of Mine has been placed on the official reading list for high school students in Poland and made available for free support to the teaching of sociology, ethics, physiology, if I say that right, and history. Um, so
Oh wow!
we talk about gaming is almost like, especially like for our generation, the PlayStation, early PlayStation, Xbox, some Nintendo stuff. That's what we grew up on, and now it's like governments are actually starting to recognize the effect that games can have. Um,
I think that just shows like the almost the government recognizing just the arts in general, because I think there's been a
Mm,
massive surge in, obviously we're quite lucky that we are media students and we want to go into this type of field, but I think there is no better time to get into it than now, because
completely, yeah.
people are recognizing it as a legitimate form of not only cultural and sort of sociological merit, but also educational as well, because like The Last of Us, for example, is just one of the most fantastic games I've ever played. But you know, it's not one of them like where people. It's almost like a cinema. It's almost like a film in itself. And I think if games can have that effect on people, what about like films and TV shows? And like you said, the educational merit for it is massive.
Well, you can even consider things like, and I know in more recent sequels it might be more iffy to say, but like the Assassin's Creed like franchise, there's a lot of like, detail to like the sort
Yeah,
of historical placements, and like, their maps are so in-depthly recreated, or like to even jump into the Grand Theft Auto world and say like, there's detail to like the little things of like what they're basing their products on. And it's like it has value in a lot of different educational manners, but it is really exciting to
maybe not
see.
GTA. Maybe not GTA,
Yeah,
Sam.
that's a
Maybe not
push.
GTA.
That's a push. But
But
like more, I'm referring to sort of like their creations of the worlds they make. They're not making
yeah,
something up from scratch. They want to really play on like what's already present in the world, and especially like with the Assassin's Creed stuff.
yeah,
They have a lot of love to trying to look into a lot of historical aspects, and obviously they have to overstep it for the fantasy world side. But there is a lot of like sort of historical value to a lot of sort of what they're trying to show. Um,
yeah.
but it's really exciting to
Absolutely.
see media as a whole being more represented in education. Especially films in any generation. Like even like my favorite sort of films were like the '80s sort of films. Even the most ridiculous ones. They have that little value of like to show us like this is the norm of how we like or what they consider to be normal. This is what the standards of like uh what they think makes a strong sort of plot, what they think makes characters in this time period, and it's something that we learn from.
Yeah, I think as well though, like every TV show, every film you watch has some sort of reasoning behind it being made. Because
Mm,
obviously, a lot of TV shows nowadays are like social commentaries on like what's going on in the world or what has happened in the world or what could happen if something doesn't change. So, you've got The Handmaid's Tale, which is a dystopian sort of futuristic, originally a book, of course.
mm,
But that is a social commentary on what happens if this totalitarian regime comes back into fruition, as it has done so many times throughout history. What could that have an effect on in the future? And I think, like you said, you love the 80s and you love the 80s films, and it's like they all still have relevancy to them because they still have a reason for being made. No film is made just because. No film is made just for the fun of it. It's done for a reason. And I think the fact that people, especially like governments and education, are understanding the importance of those messages
mm.
is nothing but good. Is nothing but good for our industry, because you're going to see more educational films being made that are actually so interesting to look at and film and create that it won't even seem like you're learning, because people say like you don't realize you're learning most of the time if something's fun. And I think
Completely, yeah. But
films and games
but to keep
are
sort of going,
perfect
I
for that.
think like weirdly, and I don't know how I've pulled this one off. Normally the news is a bit more modern, but I've gone for quite a nostalgic path with you today. And to sort of lead into that, we've got the Chicken Run sequel, which is apparently going to be screening in theaters alongside its Netflix release. And
Yes, I saw that actually.
yeah, it was only just recently announced from when this was being recorded. But yeah, Chicken Run, I think it's now 20 years old or something. And
Is
they
it that old?
it's something like that. I'm pretty sure it was a '90s film.
Wow, I'm gonna have
And
to check
yeah,
this.
so but again, sort of talking about the nostalgia stuff, that I want to say it's one of those clay
Yeah, it's
animation
20. It's 20
films.
years old.
Yeah, well, now when you watch it, you have a bit more sort of just insight to it. You just think like, wow, this is what they could do like 20 years ago. Um,
Yeah,
but I want to say it was like a clay animation film. I think it wasn't computer
yeah,
animated,
it
if I
was by
remember.
Aardman.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, because they did all the Wallace and Grommets. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's. I mean, again, I mean, it was a fantastic film. I remember as a child, and it was very cool to watch. So it's like it's always interesting to see like these properties being taken back, and you get to see what sort of like treatment they'll get, because some films are, in all fairness, rushed because some companies want to aim
Yeah, of
for more
course.
profitable aspects. But like talking about the Crash Bandicoot stuff, you're like, you know, we didn't know anything about it till like a couple of days ago when the trailer dropped. But you can already tell, they've been working on it for so long, and you can just like feel the love pouring out. And like, obviously, we haven't got a trailer to go on with the new Chicken Run film yet, but you've got to hope that like with these big franchises that there's people who are passionate about it, and like obviously it's a 20-year-old film, so it might not have the fan base it originally had. But you've got to hope that they've got love and sort of respect for the property and like what it created. But it's
I just
exciting.
think that's what I think that's what people are doing now. Like, I think
Oh
people
yes.
are taking old properties and old franchises and sort of modernizing them for a new audience. And I think the Chicken Run is a fantastic example of that, because Aardman, I
Mm.
don't think have made a film for a while. I think they've made like a few films,
It was like
like
more the
sort of
Shaun the Sheep films
recently,
and the
but
Wallace and Gromit. I remember being their
yeah.
last few things.
They've done Wallace and Gromit. The newest thing they did was Early Man in 2018, which was
Oh
about
yes, of
the
course they did.
cavemen and stuff.
Yes, I completely
But
forgot about
like,
that. Yeah.
this the thing, you forget about it because it's not a massive release that is that's done massively well. But whereas you think of things like Flushed Away, Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, they are like almost cultural classics within
Mm.
England specifically. So I think the fact that they're being brought back just shows how almost how loved they are and how important they are to people,
You know
because
what?
they wouldn't have brought them back if it wasn't of like, they wouldn't just do it for the sake of it.
Mm.
There's got to be a reason why they've done it, and it must be because of the quality that they were producing at the time.
Interesting though. Just when I just listened to you list off all the sort of films they've done, it's just purely because it's the only non-like claymation film. I completely always forget that Flushed Away is is one of their films. But then I think of the art style and the actual characters design, and I can
Yeah,
see that. But
I'm pretty sure.
it
I'm pretty
is.
sure Flushed Away was the only CGI. Was the only CGI one
Yeah,
they did.
yeah.
I don't think.
No,
I
I
don't
don't think they've
think they
done
were
it
clay.
since. But it's just such a weird thing to think about because I completely forget just because it's like got that animation smoothness to it. I completely forget that it is them. But like when you think of the character designs, of course, it just I think the main
Yeah.
protagonist, you can see a bit of Wallace in his face in a weird way. Um,
Did you know that Hugh Jackman played Roddy, who was the main character? I actually never knew that.
no way. I think actually this is
Yeah.
really weird because last week we were talking about the fact that his most known role will always be Wolverine, but that's crazy if he was.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a
Yeah, I've literally just googled it, and Roddy, who was the main character, was played by Hugh Jackman, which is something I never knew.
there you are. Like, he's just a talented man there. He's got more than
What
just.
a bloke! What a bloke!
Oh yes, to be fair, I mean he defined the role of Wolverine. I think for any other actor who touches it. Um,
Oh, 100%.
but anyway, yeah, just moving on and to get us just sort of wrapping up our news stuff. We have Canadian government buys hotels to house homeless people and also rehire workers. So this is like just a sort of feel good story. So like in England, we already had like some hotels letting like homeless people stay in them to help keep like people off the streets. And it's great to see like other governments as well, doing these sort of things to help people out. And like just it's those small gestures in life, I think, that just really just summarize, the good heartedness of people.
I think in a time of adversity like this, I think there is no better way for a community or for people to come together, and I think that is just a prime example of it. I think it's fantastic what they're doing.
Mm.
It just shows that not all hope is lost for humanity.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is why I like to like, one good feels good story, just to sort of like, mix in with the rest of it, because it is nice just to see, there are, although they are small steps, it's a step in the positive and nice direction that just makes such a difference. And it's always
Yeah,
wonderful just to
absolutely.
hear them. And like, it's almost a guilty pleasure of mine. I love just to sit down and look at the positive stories and just read them and just, it's just that sort of thing you can sit there and just smile while you read because it's just like such a nice little thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best thing to do. Sort of, a little bit of positivity in your day makes the world a difference.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, moving on from our news stuff, we'll go into our film quiz. So just I don't know if I've explained the rules to you yet, but in case of anyone who hasn't heard it before, basically what I do is I look up probably the worst descriptions of films I can find. I'll read them out, and all I need from you is to tell me the name of the film. So I mean, it's dead straight like that. We currently, I think, for the last 4 shows, we have 3 people get 6 points and 1 get 9 points. So there's 10 questions in total. So, you could take the crown in this sense.
I'm hoping to.
Yes, so you can take that away, and then forever you can, until I bring someone else on, you can at least have a week of saying, I know more films than 4 other people.
I'm the best.
There you go.
Exactly.
Anyway, normally we go for a bit of a theme, so I went for 90s films, which is, I think, quite funny, actually, because we talked a bit about the sort of 90s films and a lot of those sort of things. But
it's almost like it's been planned.
It's almost like there's a bit of organisation behind what I do. We hope anyway. Anyway, for the first one, Stanley, an easygoing bank employee, turns into an eccentric green-skinned being who can bend reality after wearing a wooden mask that is inhabited by Loki, who is a Norse god.
The Mask.
It is The Mask. I was going to throw out a Jim Carrey hint there, but that is spot on there.
Jim Carrey is one of my favourite all-time actors, so I know
I think not as many people remember The Mask. And I don't know, I mean, obviously it's an
amazing.
older film, but it's a fantastic film. I think I was reading something, it's like one of his first, like, really, breakout performances that got him more well-known. Yeah. All right, this next one, if you know it, you can stop me halfway, because I think you'll recognise this one very early. K and J are the scum-fighting super agents. Their latest mission is to save the world from a total intergalactic disaster.
J and K?
J and K, yes. That's the names they go by. I can give whatever the super agents they're working for, they all go by a letter, or one letter name.
Do you know? I actually don't think I know this. 90s films are not my forte, but I actually don't think I know this.
Well, do you want to have just a shot in the dark and see what happens, or do you want to just?
No, I'll embarrass myself further if I just guess. So just tell me the answer. Put me.
You'll kick yourself. It's Men in Black.
Oh, of course it is.
Because they all go by their names. I couldn't give you.
Of course it is.
Yeah, because that was a franchise that went on for ages. They were, I think, coming up at least once every decade or so.
Oh, yes, right.
Because they all go by their names. In all fairness, I could have thrown out a Will Smith hint, but that one would have.
I think that's it. I was like J and K.
Anyway, we'll keep going. We'll bring back the momentum. When 4 boys are caught watching an R-rated movie featuring Canadians, Terrence and Philip, they are pronounced corrupted. Now they must stop their parents from instigating a warlike situation. It is based off a TV show this movie was made from.
Oh, yeah, because the kids are watching a dodgy film, aren't they? And then,
they watch...
man, 90s films are not the one for me.
I'll give you a hint. It's an animation film, if that gives you something that just...
Animation. 90s animation that's about kids watching dodgy films.
Well, the film is... That's the premise of the film, but they do have a TV show that was before then, and it just followed these 4 kids who, like, would get into sort of trouble and whatever else on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I feel like, again, this is something I should know.
Honestly,
I'm going to kick myself.
I want to throw you something here, but, like, you'll as soon as I say it, you'll be like, "Oh, I know this straight away."
I'm gonna have to pass on this one. I think
it's a South Park, bigger, longer.
Oh, have a day off. Have a day off.
Yeah, no.
Was it a film?
They made
South
a film.
Park a film.
They had
the
a
90s.
film. Yeah, they had a film in the 90s. It was a musical film. It was with the popularity of South Park. I think that was towards one of their biggest.
They
sort
made
of, like,
the film as a result of.
And the whole film's about like the kids see
that's annoying.
A film with these Canadian guys, and like the parents decide it's too offensive, and they overtake things, and then the 4 boys are just trying to make sure that they can just watch the films they love. But this is okay. I mean, you can still get a solid 8 here, so you're not going to be. You can still be in the high area of the scores. You could take that number 2 spot.
The thing is, as soon as I heard the Canadians, I was like, I don't understand what this film is, but obviously it's about South Park and
Yeah, because Anyway,
because
symphonetic. I can't pronounce this word, so you have to excuse me. But you'll know this one. I know for a fact. A symphonetic man with scissor hands is taken in by Peg, a kindly avion lady. After the passing of his inventor, things take a turn for him. Things take a turn for the worse when he is blamed for a crime he did not commit.
is it Edward Scissorhands?
It is Edward Scissorhands.
Okay. We're back.
There we are. We're getting back into this. But no, that's a Johnny Depp is he has such a range sometimes, but he can portray the most like intimidating character.
Strange of characters.
Yeah, but it's like he can make it look effortless. Like you don't think he's putting on something.
Yeah, he's good.
Right. This one, I think, once you get to the end of it, I think you'll kind of have a good inkling of where this is. Brooklyn plumbers get the shock of their lives when they discover a parallel world populated by the intelligent descendants of dinosaurs. They have plans to rule our world. It's up to our unlikely heroes.
I think I know what this is. I think I know what this is.
Do you want me to read the rest, or do you think you know it?
Is it the absolutely terrible Mario and Luigi film?
It is absolutely yes, it is. That is completely spot on there.
I can't remember for the life of me what it was called. I'm gonna have to Google it. Mario and Luigi film, because I remember it.
Yeah, it was the Super Mario Bros. It just had an awful generic name.
That's what it's called. That's what it's called. The Super Mario Bros. 1993. I remember it. It was horrendous.
They have some of the most horrible looking, I think, costumes for non-human characters.
It's so bad.
It did not age well. I mean, again, we're talking about South Park. They were doing really well in the film, and that was quite successful. Mario, who was arguably the biggest gaming icon, gets a film, and there just wasn't the same sort of love there. I think they...
Yeah, I think it was just horrendous.
But I did sit down and I think I saw it on Netflix or something, and I sat down and rewatched it, and I regret doing that. I don't know why nostalgia...
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's really not great.
Nostalgia made me believe,
it's really not good.
I'm going to enjoy this. And I just think I got into the first 10 minutes and I was like, no, this is just a waste of time. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're bringing it back, though. We're on a bit of a streak. Let's keep it going. Phil, a self-centered weatherman, goes to the town of, and you have to excuse the pronunciation here, Punxsutawney for an assignment. He is later shocked when he wakes up the next morning and realizes that he is reliving the same day over and over.
Groundhog Day.
It is Groundhog Day. I was going to throw you. It was a Bill Murray film.
No, good film.
There we are. We're bringing it back here. You're going quite solid here. Right. So next one. After Michael Jordan's retirement, he is abducted by the Looney Tunes group and is asked to play a match to defeat the Nerd
Space Jam.
It is Space Jam.
Space Jam. You ain't got to describe that to me. It's an absolute cult classic. You ain't got to tell me anymore about that.
There's rumors. I keep seeing things. There are rumors they're making a sequel. They want to make another.
Yeah, Jordan has agreed to a Space Jam too. But it can't be made yet because obviously it's.
Oh yeah, with everything going on, but you've just got to imagine they got to. Obviously, the CGI affecting with live actors, they're going to be able to.
Obviously, it's LeBron James now. Obviously, not sadly Michael Jordan, but LeBron James is now in it.
No, of course, but it's more interesting to think how they're going to do the animation stuff again with the Looney Tunes to make it look a bit more real, or if they go more cartoony, or where how can they make a narrative that just becomes the Looney Tunes are going to play baseball, but let's make that a 2-hour long film.
Yeah, absolutely. Be interested to see. Anyway,
this one, I think it's the one I have the least faith in you with, but you never know. You might have some crazy knowledge of this. 2 secret agents, John Steed and Dr. Emma Peel, are assigned to deal with Sir August D. Winter, who wishes to destroy the world using his weather-altering machine. I'll give you the hint that the title of this film did cause some legal issues with films in the future, and it's a reason that a certain quite famous film has its name slightly changed.
John Steed. The name rings a bell. But I'm gonna have to pass on this one.
It's The Avengers. It was a 90s made film about a secret agent film, and it's the reason that the Avengers film is just called called Avengers. Because this film came out first, and still has the legal rights to name, I believe, in terms of films.
Yeah. Oh wow, I actually never knew that.
Yes, that's why. Like, because obviously, when people say
Yeah, it's a very obscure one. That.
I went with that one just because it had that cool little fact of like, that's why the film is called Avengers, not The Avengers, but they're referred to as The Avengers. They just can't say that in the film.
Oh right.
And that's after the first Avengers film. They get away with it a bit easier, but the first one, it's just like the whole time they're The Avengers, but
It
they
has
can't.
to be Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh wow. Well, every day's a school day.
This next one, I went nice because I did put a horrible one before. Flick, an inventor, leads an army of ants against a group of grasshoppers who steal their food every year. He also enlists a troop of circus bugs to help him.
A Bug's Life.
It is a Bug's Life. I was going to say this is
What a
only Pixar film, but it is a fantastic one. That's I remember seeing that film on tape, sort of film.
Yeah, on video as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, how times have changed.
Nostalgic one, but again, Pixar have always had I don't think they've ever gone wrong. To be honest, Pixar have never really made a film I've gone I absolutely hate this. There's always been something good about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll finish this off, and I think you're going to be finishing strong here. Disconnected with his capitalistic lifestyle, a white-collared insomniac forms an underground fight club with Tyler, a careless soap salesman.
Is it Fight Club?
It is Fight Club. I realised I didn't actually remember the word Fight Club when I wrote this.
I was going to say, what is the first rule of Fight Club, Sam?
We don't talk about it, and that's why we don't give any more of a plot than that.
Yes, exactly.
But you've done solid here. You've come out, considering you weren't 100% sure, you came out with 7 points. So you've scored higher than majority.
I'll take 7.
You've taken you've taken our second place right there.
I'll take that.
You can go to people like Bex and Kira and say you're just that little bit higher than them.
I'm a little bit better at the excellent news delivery film quiz.
That's a CV worthy comment to put
It's an accolade that I was going to say it's an accolade that I will definitely be putting on my LinkedIn after this.
But anyway, that kind of brings us towards the end of this podcast. Is that where can people sort of find you in social media wise, work wise? Where can they look for you?
Well, if people want to find me, they can go to Instagram, and my Instagram handle is by, so that's BY_BC_. That's BY_BC_. That's where they can find me for all of my media jobs, and basically it's like my media profile. So if you do want to follow me and find out a little bit more about what I do, that's where to find me.
That was quite a nice little, those old jingles for a telephone number, when they're trying to
it's
make
like
sure
I've
you
done
don't
this
forget
before.
the number.
I've done this before.
It felt very just smooth there. I just felt like I was in a bit of a advert there. But anyway, thank you so much for being on the show. Links to stuff like Leicester Breathe and Live, is it? Or
Live and Breathe Leicester. Live and Breathe
Leicester is links below for that, so you can check out that stuff there. Thank you so much for being on this podcast, and we'll see you next time. See ya.
Thank you very much. See you later.